And now here's part 2 of our episode.
It's a banger.
I just listened to it.
Banger.
I listened to it differently now that you told us about the fact that she was recording it hidden away in her kitchen or her basement, and while her kids are asleep. It's just, I hear it. I mean, I already thought that the album was beautiful and in its simplicity, but also I hear what you were saying beforehand when you were talking about it sounding raw. You didn't want it to seem like that was an insult or anything like that. Because a lot of times I think that when people reward an album for being simple or sounding simple, that honestly, it's not just because they just made a simple melody.
I'm guessing because there's not a lot of information about her, so you take the information you have and you try to figure out how this album happened. Mm-hmm. And she's known as an actress, and I've read that, when people would come over and they'd have parties, they would sing and play guitar. But I listened to this and I'm like, she has clearly technique. Mm-hmm. And
that's not just party playing.
No, I mean her tempo, her timing is I would say perfect in all of these songs. And there's clear, deliberate choices in her melody or instrumentation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But just that, the vocal melody, the da 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 da, da 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 da.
It's almost like a nursery rhyme.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I can so vividly see a boy and a girl running and playing outside, and the mother watching them from the window, and it's just so vivid and cinematic. And the in between from the chorus to the verse, there is this space where just her playing a measure or two before, and there's this waiting period before she starts the verse, and there's so much in she's got the tension and release thing going on in this song and other songs too, but there's just so many things to listen, and when you listen to it again and again that you'll find. But it's just, then there also is the the joyousness of a mother watching her kids and how full of life they are, but there's so much minor in the song. And that is just not something you hear a lot. I mean, with the you typically think of other songs with the same lyrical, same message. It's all up, 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 up. But she has this juxtaposition between what you're hearing in the melody and the progression and the lyrical images that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And the chorus, like I said, da 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 da,
one by one,
my daughter, my son, and the repetition. Yeah. It's hypnotizing. It's absolutely hypnotizing.
And to think that it's not her mother tongue either, it's
that too.
You just think about the fact that it's hard to imagine becoming so intimately, having another language besides English be so ingrained in me that I could express myself so simply and beautifully in that way. It's almost unthinkable to me. And when you add that layer to it and fill in the gaps of the story in that way, it's absolutely incredible.
I imagine I could be wrong, but I believe English is taught pretty regularly in schools. But German. She also, it sounds like from early on, dreamed of going to America, and there were things waiting in America that, and so I think, it's not surprising to me that she chose to sing it. I think these songs were recorded in the States, actually.
Yeah, that would make sense after she came here to start the family, and so she's sort of immersed in it, and and also thinking about that as a sort of technique for you're in a new place, and it sounds like she wanted to be here, but you're in a new place and you're trying to immerse yourself in a language and immerse yourself in a culture. Writing music in that state is it's a really fascinating way to interface with that process.
That's the thing I wish we knew. I mean, unless you've discovered that, why did she hide this? Why did she not make it public? The material,
from what I gathered and have read, the content was incredibly vulnerable and delicate stuff. So this is the thing that I didn't realize. Her son Robbie grew up to become a recording engineer. Actually, and he was in the music business. Before he had no idea his mother had an album hiding away somewhere. Can you imagine?
I just genuinely can't.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can't.
He's digging around in the attic. He finds the spools.
Yeah.
And he...
What is this?
Yeah, and he pieces it together and listens to it. And for the first time, he's hearing his mother's songs that he didn't know existed. And so for her birthday, I think it was like her 60th birthday or something like that, he cut these things together. He mixed it because he's already doing this as a profession. And he mixes it, and he burns like 100 CDs to give away, and he plays it. He says, at their birthday, and at her birthday, and he plays the album to surprise her, and she had like a meltdown. She was furious, apparently, like absolutely.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her. Yeah.
She thought it just totally backfired.
Yeah.
He thought it was going to be like this greatest. She was going to be so happy and like just surprised and shocked. And then apparently she's like, from this interview I read, I can't remember what institute it was, that eventually she had a couple drinks or whatever and started singing along the song. But what she said was that she didn't recognize the person on the thing, on the record.
Decades later,
she was like a young mother. Like I think she was like in her 20s.
Yeah.
And it's just like that was a different person on there. And who happened to be at that birthday party was Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr. He was like, I'm sure her son was like, we have to get this, like, we have to put this album out, And he was like, no, we have to put this album out. This album.
So was it against her wishes that part happened? I mean, I feel like there's some legal, I think she legal
knew
things
what they were up to at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think she was like, sounds like she was like, sure, whatever. What ended up happening was they found a label that was willing, and it was Orange Twin Records out of I believe it's Athens, Georgia. Thank God, the owner of that label, who's also I think part of the band Elf Power, was like, the album's done. We're not going to put anything to the album. They could have another label could have done something.
Yeah, fucked with it.
Yeah, could be like, you know what? It's lacking. I don't know, some synths.
Well, they did something to the last track on the album, though, didn't they?
So, I think
that's the only thing, right?
Yeah, that I have no idea how the strings.
It's a little inconclusive in my research as well.
Yeah, I don't know how the strings got on that. I know that she didn't record all of these together in one sitting. Obviously, it's over the span of 3 years. I don't know. I think it's Give Me a Smile, Bring Me a Smile.
Give Me a Smile.
I don't know where the strings came from on that.
Lyrically beautiful. The strings are a little incongruous. I love it.
I get the point.
But it's a little incongruous.
Yeah, I know. I think I don't know how I feel about it. But I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I do. I do think this is a perfect album. But I'm glad that I really want to find out if that happened before they got a hold of it, or from what I've read, they touched nothing. They kept it the way it was because, maybe
it was a Robbie thing then.
I don't know. I really don't know.
To be determined.
To be determined. But once the album was released, it caught on fire, especially in folk circles and stuff like that, and in indie circles, and people they wanted her to get on the road with a guitar and sing these songs. She was like, absolutely not. There's no way.
I am an elderly woman, thank you.
Yeah. But that's just all that's from an article. And the sole interview they have from her. They have one actual interview where she actually sat with her son and spoke. So a lot of that stuff I didn't know. It just adds it adds to the story we already know, which is amazing enough. But just thinking about it just to me is an example of what an artist is. Yeah. We have one common version of an artist's life in our mind, and there are albums out there that no one will ever hear,
sitting in attics,
perfect albums,
or in vaults
of incredible power and magnitude and truth, and no one's going to hear them. And they, you know what I mean? I believe both sides. I believe that no one should have heard this album, and I'm glad that I heard this album. But I think that you have to listen to this album knowing the context of the album. It adds such dimensionality to this album. You're hearing a private, as my mom said, you're hearing a therapy section. This was her therapy.
Yeah.
One of the things was the first song she ever wrote is on this album. It's Remember the Day. She was very young. She was incredibly depressed, possibly suicidal, maybe with some ideation or something like that. And her friend tricked her into a road trip. Her mother like had a restaurant of some kind, and she said, "Hey, let's go and get your mother some groceries for the restaurant." And she said she was literally under the bed. She wasn't even on the bed. She was under the bed. She got in the car. They went to go get some food, and then they got in the car and they ended up driving over the Alps and landing into Genoa. And you hear it in the song. And this is just like a testament to how incredible. And this was the first song. So this experience, and she talks about like this release from this thing that she's going through. And it's this trip. It was this gift, this huge gift. Yeah. And when she got back home, these songs just started pouring out of her. And she hadn't been writing songs, you know? Yeah. And you hear it in the song. It's a very, very low key, dirgy minor key song. And then when she says, you know, got me on the road to Genoa, like the tempo slows down and modulates into major. Yeah. And it's just beautiful picking, like roller picking that. And you can see it. You know,
it's really transportative. I mean, all of them are in their own way.
It's gorgeous. And I was thinking today, funny enough, it's a lot like Vivian Maier.
Oh, yeah.
In that discovering, long after she's gone, this hidden...
The photographer, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the street photographer.
This hidden life, this hidden deep, deep well of artistry.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
I like that comparison.
So you better give me some points for that.
All right. I also gave you 842 points for talking about how like no one needed to hear the album, but like we got that. We were gifted with that anyway. It's still perfect. And then I'll give you 500 points for the Vivian Maier parallel being made. Okay, but as I do that, as I write that down, let's pivot into we've kind of been dancing around this as to why it's perfect, but we asked you for 4 perfect albums. I'm glad we picked the one that you expected us to pick the least. That is gratifying to me. But what were tell us about some of the standards that went through your head when you were compiling that list of 4 albums. What rubric were you grading them against?
My personal opinion that every song is solid song. Mm-hmm. You're not going to skip.
No skips.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like a continued theme.
Sure.
On an album.
No
I think
continued
continued theme. And like, I don't know, she talks about, she sings about a lot of things, you know, she doesn't stick to the same subject, but the context of her recording and everything is all consistent, you know. It's her and a guitar in a quiet, she's in solitude when she's recording. You can hear her voice change and stuff like that. You can tell we're getting a different Sibylle on a different recording, like, because it's over 3 years, you know, and stuff happens, you know what I mean? But essentially the context stays the same, and it's one piece.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But she also has the advantage of never recording another album, so...
Nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, she has the perfect situation. She recorded a masterpiece, never did another one, and it'll remain...
Must be nice.
Yeah.
I definitely get the sense that it sounds like a portrait of a period of someone's life, specifically. I mean, so even though it wasn't all recorded in one session or in 1 year like that, you know, I feel like if I had been a recording artist, like the music from my early 20s would be very different from the music of my late 30s. Like even though like I feel like, I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, how we all our favorite music tends to be the stuff that we listened to between the ages of, you know, 14 and 27 or thereabouts. Right. And even when we're 60, we're still that's always gonna be our favorite music. But I think that the music that we would make as we get older and experience different things changes.
Yeah. Her son we're trying to get her to record it, and they just couldn't do it.
Well, she's recorded one more song, right?
Yeah, I think it's one
for that Wim Wenders film, but like,
right?
I think that's been about it. Really.
That was it, and I mean, this is like 36 years ago. Yeah, and she just doesn't. You know, I implore people to. If I can think of it, I always implore people to listen to this album. Like this, I've never downloaded this on my phone. This is one of those albums where I listen to it maybe once a year, maybe. it's bringing back a time for me, my college days, and how those felt, and how, so a special time that was in my life, being a young guy and being on my own for the first time, and like kind of just, exploring a lot of things and discovering new things. And I get called back to Asheville a lot when I'm listening to this album. So it's like, I don't know, I'm sure you all have that. There's some albums that you just cannot casually listen to. Mm. And the one thing that, like, I hope folks go out and listen to this album, but like, man, I really hope some can listen to it on a record player, like with some speakers, and just sit and listen to this album.
I intend at some point to have all of the albums that we've talked about on this podcast on vinyl. Is something that I've set as a little goal for myself, but I think this will be one that I buy sooner rather than later. It does seem like that's the right way to listen to it.
When we listen to albums for this podcast, I generally listen to them multiple times before we record an episode. And some are easier to listen to multiple times than others, but for different reasons. And I would actually say that listening to this album multiple times in a row wasn't as easy, but not because I didn't want to listen to it, but because, I mean, when I picked you up from the airport and you were talking about how, I can't just listen to this. I think we were talking about Jeff Buckley, weren't we? Talking about
Buckley was another one.
You can't just listen to Jeff Buckley in the background. Not casually. You have to. It has to be a conscious listen.
It's too much.
And I think maybe that's what this album is. It requires of the listener. Like you can't just mow lawns or vacuum while you're listening to this album.
Yeah,
you have
it's a journey.
To give it attention.
Yeah. You can't skip the journey
no
to a certain place. You can't do it. There's a lot of albums like that. I think every one of the albums that I pitched the four are all albums like that. They're what I would consider sacred albums, personally sacred albums, to where they live on the record shelf. There is a time that is right to listen to them, and when you have picked the wrong time, it is
somebody puts that on at a party. You're like,
a
what?
good feeling.
You're like, stop.
That's another thing too. I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but if you are at a casual thing and someone's playing a song and you're trying to talk to them, and then they're playing the song from your high school years that like literally pulls your body into. I've
had that happen. You'll be having a conversation.
I think
with
Buckley would be definitely one of those. Anything off of Grace would easily be a moment like that. I would just be. Or like for you, y'all are like Radiohead obsessed people. I mean, if they played the opening track to Kid A somewhere, just like, can you? I mean,
I'd be confused. I'd be confused, right? Because, I think this thing you're saying about the sacredness of albums. We've talked about like the spiritual quality of albums a fair amount on this podcast, but I think it is especially illustrative of you and how I know you play music and how I know your relationship with music is that there is this sort of like outside of yourself thing, this spiritual energy that music exists with you. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that would be a criteria for your perfect albums. And I do think that it's something that it's indefinable, but it's sort of like, it when you hear it.
Yeah.
And who said that about pornography? Some famous politician said that
when you see it.
I don't know what it is, but I know
obscenity?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know it when I see it. But this is
definition of obscenity,
right? Exactly. But I think that there is you're expressing something that has been a common thread in our conversations, which is it being more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
It being like this is. Somebody else could have recorded an album in their attic, and there was something in the spiritual circumstances of what was happening that did not add up.
What's that? I never saw History Boys, a play, but I remember the movie, and Richard Griffiths has that
God rest his soul.
Gosh.
Yeah, what an actor.
Where he's explaining to the student the moment when you come across that book, and it is like the author has written this thing specifically for you.
Yeah.
And which I think is a universal thing of all art.
Yeah.
And can happen in any medium. And I think The Color Green is definitely one of those albums where, I mean, I was like just the moment of walking into the record store and walking right back out.
You didn't need to hang around any longer.
Didn't need to see anything else.
Job done.
We needed.
Yeah. There was some synchronicity there.
That's amazing.
So, Casey, we occasionally ask our guests if there's something that they've been listening to regularly that they wanted to recommend to our listeners. Something maybe like this album, maybe something not like this album at all, something that's been filling your ear holes a lot lately.
Yeah. So I was saying a little while ago that there just hasn't been that thing, that new thing. That I am always looking for that new artist or that new album that's going to change my life. And I've had enough. I've been lucky to have enough in my, in the span of time that I've been searching and finding my own music to where I'm constantly looking for that because I need that sea change. I need that shift. But I haven't found it. I haven't figured out. I listen to a lot of the same old stuff, and I can't figure out that next thing. That's that horrible feeling that you've heard everything.
Yeah,
and there's nothing else to hear. But there's this album I keep going. I've been going back to by this band from the '90s that arguably created math rock.
Nice.
Called Chavez, and Matt Sweeney is the guitar player songwriter that is most thought of when you talk about Chavez, but he plays on a lot of people's music. He's a sought after musician. He also has a great YouTube channel. He sits with a guitar with other. He sits with like Ween and
Let's go Ween.
Blake Mills, all these great artists, and he talks about their playing and stuff. He's a real guitar player, But I'm a huge Bonnie Prince Billy Oldham fan, and he's on a lot of Oldham's greatest records. And they just put one out because they've decided to brand their collaboration as the Super Wolves, I believe, right? The Chavez's first album is called Ride the Fader.
Ride the Fader.
And I tell you what, the opening track just does it for me every time. But the opening track, Top Pocket Man, I think they had real success over their track Unreal Is Here. They have that's probably the first thing that comes up on YouTube. Unreal Is Here. But there's a song. It's the penultimate song on the album called Ever Oversight, and it's this it sounds like it was recorded in a bathroom with like a tape deck, and it's like just piano, and it's such a different part. Like everything is so in your face. It's it's just mathy and just like really, But then there's just like this somber piano playing in a bathroom. I go back to the song in my head, and I realize, Casey, you need to listen to that fucking album. Like that's why you're thinking about this, And
yeah.
But yeah, this album was put out in '96 by Matador. Chavez is the name of the band.
Yeah.
Ride the Fader. Which I believe is like a mixing console.
Yeah, I would think so. All right, we'll make sure that the good folks, our good listeners, get that info. Dude, this has been great, and I think you're pretty close to winning, but we got to find out first. Okay,
is there a winner, like an all-time record-keeping winner?
Well, I don't know. It could be you.
I'm the other guy. I'm not Ricky Bobby. I'm the other guy.
Okay, fair enough. I'm
John C. Reilly. In
the
that's
spirit,
a good place to be.
It is.
I want to be John.
That's
C.
the healthy.
I'm the alley.
That's the healthy place.
I'm Pippin.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's great. Let's run down your points anyway because it's worth it. Right here towards the end, I didn't mention it because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I gave you 3,000 points for talking about the sacredness of albums and like it was written just for you. I gave you 1,000 points from something that Michael said that added to your case about this feeling like a portrait of a period in a person's life. Totally as a snapshot for that. 888 points for saying that perfect albums need no skips and a consistent continued theme. Amen to that. 500 points for the Vivian Mayer, Sibylle Baier connection. Kindred spirits, I think that's apt. 842 points for no one needed to hear this album, but we're grateful and glad that we did. 737 points for the reel-to-reel being an instrument unto itself on this album. 8,200 points for quiet songs, so as not to wake the children. 800 points for gifting the CD to your mother. Beautiful story. 999 points for Static Age in Asheville, North Carolina, and the proprietor Joel, I think you said?
I don't know if he still owns it, but it's still open for business and like one of the first stars. That and Harvest Records I'll shout out to. If you're in Nashville, you need to go to those places.
Go to those two places, and we hope Joel is doing okay. 4,500 points for Jaco Pastorius's bio being one of your favorite books.
First ever book read of my choice.
Because you're a freak, and I love you for it.
That and Pearl Jam's 5 Against 1. That probably beat Jaco.
There's a better Pearl Jam one out now. I'll tell you after the pod.
You're talking to the right guy.
I can't read another Pearl Jam biography. I'm sorry.
No, you can read this one.
500 points.
Grunge off.
We
need
Who's going to win that one, Casey? Who's going to win that one?
I think
we'll
you
see.
know, Michael.
Yeah.
500 points for saving up to buy yourself a Korn-style bass. Korn with a K. Freak on a leash. Let's go.
It was more of a System of a Down style bass. I wish it was a Korn style bass at the time.
Wake up, Casey.
They actually... wake up. Yeah. And then 1,000 points for the holy foursome of Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, Tupac,
and
MC Hammer. You gave Michael...
Please, country, don't hurt them. There we go.
They're called the Highwaymen.
That's already taken.
Well, I know, but it's like that's the thing I was trying to make. It's like a reference.
Oh, it's a joke.
We're going to workshop that one.
It's a joke.
You gave Michael 7.8 out of 10 for his recap of Sibylle Baier and Color Green, which is pretty damn good. So, with all the points on the board, the case that our friend Casey made, beautiful conversation that we've had. What do you say, Michael? Does Color Green by Sibylle Baier go to 11? Is it a perfect album?
Are you saying that whether or not he wins is in my hands right now, Tyler?
It is, yeah. It's all
what
you.
You're saying?
Michael, did I say something mean to you?
Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Was I mean to you? I didn't mean to
I seem to remember you saying something about the way I spoke German.
Well, it's not your fault. It's that language.
You're being assessed the minute you walk in the room, Casey.
Yeah,
you know this. You've auditioned enough.
You're auditioning for a reality show is what's happening. Yes, it's perfect. It goes to 11. This has been great. This has been a great conversation.
Press the button.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Has anybody lost this?
Not yet.
One person came close.
A couple have come close.
Oh, really?
Well,
one or two have
okay.
come close.
That person? Is that...
I would say two people came close. One knows that they came close, and the other probably has no idea.
Ooh, spilling the tea.
Yep.
Well, anyway.
We'll talk off the pod.
Anyway. This has been fun, buddy.
Yeah, this has been great. We should keep doing this.
I think we'd love to have you back sometime to talk about another album. And
maybe a Pearl Jam album.
Maybe a Pearl Jam album.
We should argue about that.
So which one would be your perfect Pearl Jam album?
Perfect Pearl Jam?
Don't say.
No.
Don't say.
But
wait, say or don't say?
I'm saying don't say.
Okay.
Save it.
I was about to say.
Well, we'll talk off the pod then.
No, I'm a Soundgarden guy. That's the thing that you will not beat me about.
I beat you about? Why would you beat you about it? Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's okay.
I just wanted to make
when we both love Chris
I think
Cornell.
you two would be the two most evenly matched grunge heads.
I mean, I have...
as my dad would say, you two are a couple of grunges.
In my possession, rare relics.
Okay.
Just want you to know.
Well, having what are you, a Taurus? Having possessions.
No, I'm like a I'm like a Rothschild of like.
What is your sign anyway?
Libra.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean that sounded judgmental.
Whoa.
The way I said that sounded judgmental. I'm sorry.
Whoa! What'd you think I was?
No, just I don't know. We're talking about. Never mind. We should move on.
Everybody, we're having a really great time. Casey and I are having a really great time with Michael here in Canton, cooking up something really fun, really exciting project that we got. So stay tuned to our channels because I can't wait to share more about that. Maybe coming to a city near you. And thanks for bringing this album into my life because I genuinely think this is an album I'll listen to for a long time.
So what we pick as our standout track?
Our standout track, though, I made my late case for this one, and it's based on the lyrical content of it. I wanted to go with "Forget About" Killer Song. You got anything else, Michael?
I got nothing else. I think it's time to let them listen.
Yeah. Thanks, Casey. Love you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Listeners, thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week.